All systems go. Cleared for takeoff.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Back talking baseball with my man Nades like usual. Nades, yesterday was a small slate on a Monday, only 6 games. Today's a big boy, man. 15 games. It's crazy one. Pitching is, I think there's a lot of good options again when it comes to pitching. As far as hitting, there's one spot that stands out. That is the Dodgers in Coors Field against an absolute can in Connor Seabold. They're going to be chalky, no doubt about it. Very, very chalky. One of the chalkiest teams I think we'll see when we're talking 15-game slates. But you were talking a little pre-show. You were thinking 20% roughly come to full lineup share. But we'll talk about it when we get to bats. Coors Field, the Dodgers are the talk of the slate. Pitching is definitely interesting, though. I'm excited for this one, Nate. Pretty good prize pools out there, as usual. How you doing on this fine Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, no, we're doing good. I gave the people the little pairing, right? Little Detmers, little Cease, double combo. They absolutely went nuclear, right? What was it? A 1-1 game in the 8th. Obviously, the Angels walked it off in the bottom of the 9th there. And if you played those two guys at their price tag, you printed money, even not even having Strider, right? Strider did post a pretty good score. But again, I said, right, he needs probably 40-something to really kill you. He got his 30, whatever. Like I said, right, the Twins got to him a little bit, but he still got the K upside. Posted like 34 with the win, I think, something like that. But Mr. Cease and Mr. Detmers both matched him right there at 30, 29, 28 at 7K apiece. So I'll take that any day. It was a very profitable night for myself. Personally, the bats got the job done. The pitchers got the job done. The Mets did not get the job done. Man, I can't get that team right. And you said it, Title. You were on the right side of that one. I wish I would have listened to you. And man, freaking dude just keeps owning us from our own team. Continues to skate by and just own these guys. I don't know how he's doing it, but man, the dude must be in the Cy Young chase or something because I don't understand it. But yeah, 15 games on slate. I mean, you got a 7.2 implied total for the Dodgers. I don't know if we're playing baseball or football out here, but hey, good weather. It's humid, wind blowing out, and you got freaking gas can on the mound, Seabold. I think the Dodgers, if they were playing in freaking Seattle, would be mega chalk against Mr. Seabold here tonight. Obviously, best hitting park on the slate. Good weather, too. Ready to dive in. Definitely interesting talking points. Pitching seems to be pretty spread out, especially with the guys at the top. I mean, on a normal slate, with the Dodgers not being on the slate, you would look at Ohtani in this matchup. We just saw Detmers, what he did last night against this White Sox team. Now you got Ohtani, obviously one of the best arms in baseball, projecting to be right around 30% only. Obviously, he is an expensive 15-game slate, expensive bats to pay for. But I'll tell you what, I definitely have a lot of interest in him. So we'll dive in, but excited to break it down for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't say I was on the right side necessarily with the Mets and Ray. I did like the Mets some. But when it came to it, did the FanDuel slate plan, there were just so many good teams. We like the Mariners. We like Baltimore. There's multiple teams where they just didn't crack it. Again, I leaned the Mets over Ray, and Ray actually just keeps shoving it. But, yeah, I mean, Tolga in here, he said he had a good day, cashed everything. Made your Cease call, helped him out. He took Tiger's money line, too. Yeah, good stuff, Tolga. Who else we got in the YouTube chat before we tackle this absolutely monster slate? Nades in here always talking to the people in chat while talking on screen. Squid's in here. What's going on, Squid? Bump, Mike Carr, Jordan's in here. Gator Nation, Trevor, Richie Smalls, William, Paraby, Jake, what's going on? Appreciate all of you guys hanging out. Ryan Cohen in here. All we ask from you is the like button. When you do hit the like button, it's a big subscribe button next to that. Helps us out a ton. If you're not a member at SHIPIT Nation, don't know what you're doing either. Projections, stack rankings, hitter rankings, pitcher rankings. Talking pitcher rankings yesterday, Luis Castillo, big ownership discount off the Strider, 25-piece. Can't complain there. And then if we have slate plan, core plays from Hoop, from Nades, from Hamwich, from G Rising, cash cores as well. And then a great community in the Discord. No better time to join. $59 a month, everything included, $599 a year. Dana Hill in here. higher bars in here. What's going on? I probably botched your name, but I've seen you around. Let's talk baseball, though, Nades. 15 games. Talking weather, the only game looks to be a concern is the Mets and the Brewers, which is a little interesting because David Peterson will have some ownership if that game is all clear to go. So that's the only game with weather concerns. We'll talk as if it does play, though, but definitely monitor it. Nades, let's go. I'm going to mix it up a little. We're going to go 9K and above, and then I'm going to go like 7.5 and above, and then I'm going to go down to the cheap range, something like that, because there's so many pitchers on the slate, and we're talking 9K and above. Ohtani, Gausman, Joe Ryan, Framber Valdez, Zach Gallen, Clayton Kershaw, Taj Bradley, Bryce Elder, like all of those guys have been good. A lot of big names there. Taj Bradley's been on fire this year. K-Prop sitting 5.5. He'll be very low owned in this range, though. Bryce Elder, very low owned in this range. Framber, Joe Ryan. Like Gausman and Ohtani are definitely going to get the most up top. Ohtani, I think, a little more than Gausman. Other than that, I think a lot of these guys are going to be pretty low owned because you said people are going to spend down at pitching and pay up for some of these bats. So break down 9K and above that pitcher.
Yeah, we'll start at the top. Mr. Showtime himself. I love him in the spot. Like I said, I think on a different slate with the Dodgers not in Coors Field or facing Seabold, I think you would probably see 50-60% ownership on Ohtani in this matchup, and you're getting that at about half of that at 11.3. I mean, we just saw Strider last night at 12.6 in a very similar spot. Now you get $1,300 discount, you can argue, right, with Ohtani in this spot. I'm going to throw right around 100 pitches, maybe more. Should have some run support behind him. I do think the Angels can get to Mr. Kopech here tonight. So I do think they have some run support behind him. I like Ohtani at the top. Kevin Gausman's interesting. I think if I'm spending up, I'm going one of Ohtani or Gausman. The reason I'm say that is I want slate winning upside, right? Both of them have pretty healthy projections. Both of them right around 25 to 30% ownership. And there's a lot of cheap guys on the slate that people want to play. Guys like Brian Wu. You talked about Taj Bradley. Taj Bradley and Brian Wu both have the highest strikeout rate on the entire slate in their sample size so far this year. Obviously, Gausman and Ohtani are right there similar too as well. But you need slate winning upside. It's a 15-game slate. And if the Dodgers go off and even if those cheaper pitchers just don't absolutely get nuked and just post a decent score, it's going to be tough to beat them. So I need a pitcher that's going to go out there and has the upside, right, to throw 30, 35 DraftKings points up there. I think Ohtani certainly does against these White Sox. We just saw what he did last start at home against the Dodgers. Now he gets the White Sox, which much more woeful offense than the Dodgers. So I love Ohtani. Gausman is tough. I do think he has the K upside, but some of the San Fran bats can get to him. So I think if I'm going up, I'd just rather spend the $300, get to Ohtani. Joe Ryan, I'm out on Joe Ryan. I get it, right? What Sonny Gray just did to the Braves last night was pretty hurtful overall. Had some good teams, good pitcher teams with the Braves because obviously I did spend down at pitcher last night for the most part. I'm not going to do it with Joe Ryan against the Braves. Nobody's going to play him. If you want to, sure, he's got a solid projection, but 10-8, I would much rather just find the salary to go all the way up to the top. Framber, same kind of story against Seattle or St. Louis, excuse me. Ground ball guy, I just can't do it. Again, I want the strikeouts. I want the 35, 40 DraftKings point upside on the slate. Could Joe Ryan and Framber do it? Yeah, I'm just going to take my chances that they don't. If I'm going up, I'm going all the way up. Zach Gallen's kind of in that same boat. Not a ton of interest in Zach Gallen against these Rays. The Rays can hit a bunch of bombs, 15-game slate. I just don't know that Mr. Gallen has that upside. Clayton Kershaw has been incredible, but he obviously should have the run support behind him too with the Dodgers. But I'm just not trying to play a $9,700 pitcher in the best game environment on the slate, right? Coors Field, it's hot, 85, 88 degrees, wind blown out, humid. I'm just not doing it. Taj Bradley is an interesting one because I'm seeing sub 5% ownership on him. And like I said, I mean, the dude has a 34.5% K rate on the year in his sample size. He's not going to throw long. He's going to throw 5-6 innings maybe. We know what they do with the Rays, right? They're real quick to come in, bring the bullpen in. But, I mean, 34.5% K rate, barrel rate under 6%. He limits hard contact overall. So I do think he's definitely interesting at 9,400. Nobody's going to play him. And you could argue, you could just start with Mr. Bradley and Elder right there. Those two and leave the guys out at the top if you need that extra $2,000 instead of going all the way up to Ohtani. So in this range, I'm gonna rank Ohtani number 1, Bryce Elder number 2 against Minnesota. I'm gonna continue to pick on a 28 to 30% K rate that Minnesota rolls out there every single night. Braves should have some run support. I think they get to Joe Ryan a little bit here after that flop last night. And then Taj Bradley number 3. I'm out on the rest of those guys.
Yeah, great breakdown. And I like double spend. I definitely think is tough today. There's ways to do it. The Guardians, we talked a little pre-show. They're going to get some ownership, but when there's 15 teams, there's going to be a lot of teams that are very cheap to stack. So double spend up, you can make it work. But man, these Dodgers, if you're trying to play them, you aren't double spending up at pitcher. And there's other good offenses that have spend up bats too, and cheap viable options we'll get to when talking pitchers. So I don't love the double spend up as much. Ohtani, I agree with. He is my favorite. I like Austin too. You made a point that I thought that I agree with is just when you're spending up on this slate, you want upside. You want a guy that can go out there, give you 35. Gausman, Ohtani are those guys. It's hard to make a case. Like Taj Bradley, I like him, but with the pitch count concerns, he's going to get yanked early, and Diamondbacks don't strike out a ton. He has to be effective in his 90 pitches if you're lucky to get that, if he is rolling. So I like Bradley. I think he's more like a give me 17, something like that. I'll take it and move on. Ohtani for me, though, up top, like Gausman too. Yeah, we'll go lower, though. Talking pitcher, I know one of your favorites is in this range, someone that grades out well at our pitcher rankings over here. We'll go 7.5K and above. No, we'll go 7K and above. I think you can cross off a lot of these guys. Tyler Wells, one guy that stands out. Paul Blackburn, the other, 7.7K. Talk about those guys. I think they probably have the most ownership in this range, but we're going from Ranger Suarez. He's going to get a little ownership too. Ranger Suarez at 7K all the way up to Michael Kopech, 8.8K. Break down that range for us.
Yeah, I'm seeing one guy getting significant ownership in this range. It's Tyler Wells against Cincinnati. I just don't know if I can do it here. I like a guy that's going to be a fraction of his ownership. I'm seeing sub 5%, and that's Mr. Paul Blackburn against these Yankees at home, Oakland, good pitchers park. He's not going to throw a ton of pitches. I mean, he averages right around 90 pitches, but this Yankees lineup without Judge in there is just not super scary, and they strike out at a 25% clip on the road against righties. And Mr. Paul Blackburn, if you take a look at him, I touted him last time he was on the slate, and he did just fine as well. Pretty healthy projection. I mean, he's got an expected ERA of 3.26, K rate over 25%, which is above league average. League average right now is sitting at 22% for the majors, so he's well above that. And a barrel rate under right around 5%. So he limits hard contact. And again, these Yankees, I mean, you got guys like Anthony Volpe, Billy McKinney. We bring him up a lot, but he's striking out nearly 30%. You got Stanton striking out at nearly 40%. Volpe striking out at 35%. I mean, outside of 3 guys in this lineup, they all strike out over 25%. I'll take my chances with a 26% strikeout guy at home in a pitcher's park at sub 5% ownership at 7,700. I love Paul Blackburn tonight. Kind of flake planning my spot there. Tyler Wells against Cincinnati. I just don't know if I'm going to pick on Cincinnati here. This lineup that they confirmed in, I mean, strikes out at just a 19% clip against righties on the road this season. When he's getting 25% ownership on a 15-game slate, and he's 8,400, and I like guys that are lower owned, 2 guys in particular in Blackburn, and then I'll talk about Ranger Suarez too below him. I'm just real easy going to those guys. I mean, you need salary, especially if you want to play the Dodgers. I typically not a Coors guy, but man, it's hard to ignore the Dodgers here tonight against Seabold. So you need salary. I'm going to save my salary and just go down. So Paul Blackburn's definitely number 1 in this range. And then Ranger Suarez. The reason I like Ranger Suarez is it is a wind game in Wrigley, about 10 to 12 mile an hour winds blown in. So that should help Suarez. And overall, he has a pretty solid matchup. To be honest with you, against these Cubs. So I think at just 7K, I think he can get some strikeouts. Going to throw 92, 94 pitches, somewhere in that range if he's cruising, maybe a little bit more. And the Phillies can hit some bombs no matter where they are. So I like those 2 guys. I really don't have a ton of interest in the rest of them. I typically have talked on Whitlock quite a bit. I'm sure I guess if you want to, right, picking on Miami is not the worst thing. I just don't love it. I really like those other two guys, so I don't see the need to really kind of go searching for other guys in this range personally.
Yeah, great breakdown. What's going on, Maul? What's going on, Alex? Great stuff, Nades. Yeah, Paul Blackburn, I'll ride the train with you right there. 7-7. Wells definitely will be higher owned. I think Ranger Suarez probably a little higher owned too. Ranger Suarez call, don't mind him either at 7K. I mean, when you're looking at it, 70 degrees in Wrigley, wind blowing in, what you like to see. K prop, some juice on the over, 4.5. A lot of these guys on this 15-game slate, a lot of these guys looking at projections, looking at K props, matchups, all kind of fall in the same boat. We're going to talk a little bit below 7K, but like Rich Hill, Jameson Taillon, Johnny Brito, Martin Perez, Gavin Williams, like a lot of these guys all seem like the same guy. I like the Paul Blackburn call for sure. The more I talk about it, man, Ohtani at 11.3, Gossman 11K. I like Ohtani more. Anchoring one of your lineups with them, I think, is very interesting. But if you want to play the Dodgers, it's tough to do. But my favorite in that range is Paul Blackburn. Tyler Wells, he'll be one of the higher owned pitchers. Probably the third highest, fourth highest guy, something like that on this slate. I would definitely rather just go make that pivot. The Reds is not a team I love picking on, but Wells, a good real life pitcher, probably underpriced for his talent. But yeah, Paul Blackburn, $700 savings. Blackburn, $700 savings. I'll ride with you there, Nades. 7K and below, though, before we do that and round out pitching, again, we do appreciate you guys if you hit the like button and the big subscribe button right next to it. If you want Nade's core, you want Hoops Slate plan that's already up on the site, Hoops core plays, projections rolling in. Like always, every time lineups come out, stack rankings, pitcher rankings, hitter rankings all up as well. Got to join SHIPITNation.com. Golf going on this week, the Rocket Mortgage, MMA as well. Marley on the team, very excited to be talking some fights with him. No better deal, $59 a month, $599 a year. Get in the Discord as well. Saw you hop in there earlier, Squid. Good to see you, man. Nades, let's wrap up pitching 7K and below. One of the highest owned pitchers, if not the highest owned. Brian Wu sitting there 6.9K. Been good in his 4 starts in the MLB so far. Washington, not a team we are afraid to pick on. Strikeout's not the best strikeout matchup, but they just don't have pop in that lineup. 6.9K, he feels safe. On a slate we need salary, we want to spend up at bats. I think he's probably the highest owned pitcher. What do you like? Do you like him? Do you not like him? What are you doing? Overweight, underweight? Anybody else below that you like?
Yeah, he's interesting. I hated Target in Washington. I brought it up yesterday. They kind of knocked Castillo around a little bit. Castillo did get some strikeouts there. I just think Castillo is a better pitcher than Brian Wu personally. I'm seeing 35% ownership on Brian Wu, right? Everyone wants to play these Dodgers. I think he does have some K upside, but man, if you look at this, the Nationals strikeout lowest on the slate overall as their lineup. I mean, they have one guy in their lineup striking out over 25%, and that's Lane Thomas, but Lane Thomas also has the most power on their team too. He had a leadoff bomb last night against Castillo, so he's seeing the ball well right now. I get it, right? Brian Wu, 33.8% K rate on the season, expected ERA just 2.4. He's been good in his 4 starts, but I mean, maybe there's some regression coming. Who knows? It's tough for me. I mean, 6,900. I just wish DraftKings would have his price up around 8,700. So I think he is probably about $2,000 too cheap here. But again, it's tough. I don't know what I'm going to do with him personally right now. If I need the salary, I think you can go to him. But I mean, you look at Blackburn, $800 more than him, right? I kind of like just finding $800 somewhere. There's a lot of cheap bats, 15-game slate at a fraction of the ownership. I think Blackburn can easily match him at least, or outscore him more times than the ownership is showing, right? So that's kind of where I'm going to go. But Brian Wu, I mean, very healthy projection for the price tag. I'm seeing 17, 18 projection right around there at 6,900. That's hard to ignore. David Peterson is interesting against Milwaukee. He does rank pretty good on our tools over here, so I definitely have interest because I do like these rankings. I think he has K upside against Milwaukee. Again, I just not afraid to pick on this Brewers team overall. Strike out at over a 26% clip against lefties and on the road. And historically, they're just been bad against left-handed pitching. So 6,600. I'm seeing a little bit lower ownership on him than Wu, so I definitely prefer him over Wu personally. just because the Nationals 17% K rate overall on the season. The rest of these guys down here, no interest in Brito, Rich Hill, Tyon, any of these guys. Gavin Williams is interesting, right? The kid, what is this, his second start? He was 4K flat, right? Making his debut. Incredible strikeout rate in the minors. Struggled a little bit with some control issues, right, in his first start. I do think I would like to see him get some control issues back, but at just 5,900, I'm seeing sub 5% ownership on him, right around a 12, 13 projection on him as well at 5,900. I think you could take a shot, right? He is playing KC. I typically like to target Kansas City outside of Kauffman Stadium. They just strike out right around 20% against righties at home. Much better team at home overall. Gavin Williams just struck out 17% of batters in his first start there. Didn't get hit very hard, so I think at 5,900 he makes some sense. Martin Perez, I don't have a ton of interest in Martin Perez. I talked about Detroit last night. My lineup that did very well was a 5-man Detroit stack. I gave that out on the show that I love Detroit, the sneaky side of that game. Everyone wanted to play Texas. Detroit came out and kind of punched them in the mouth. So if I'm going down, I think I would rather just take a shot on Gavin Williams or find money to get up to David Peterson. So I don't have a ton of interest in Perez. Certainly not playing Brady Singer. I think he sucks. Not to say that I have a ton of interest in the Guardians, especially when they're second highest owned stack on the slate due to their salaries. So I'm in this range. I would say David Peterson number 1. I would put Gavin Williams number 2, and then Brian Wu just number 3. But I don't have a ton of interest in Wu himself.
Yeah, again, monitor the weather for David Peterson. If I like picking on the Brewers, if that game is good to go for weather, definitely like him there. I like Wu, and it's just because, man, when we get to the bats, like I love fading the chalk in baseball. You can always fade it. The Dodgers are so hard to make a case to fade today. That means I need to spend down at pitching somewhere. And Wu, we like picking on. Well, I don't love picking on Washington, like I said, for the upside factor. But Wu, a good strikeout pitcher himself, has K upside, a good arm, 4.5 K prop, a lot of juice on the over. He can get you 6, 7. Should have a little run support. Washington's not scary. Home runs looks like Wu gives up a good amount of fly balls, but I'm not worried about anyone on this Washington team in Seattle. So he just feels so safe at 6,900 on a slate that I don't see guys getting over 30 really. I just don't see it on the slate. You give me 17 at 6.9K, my bats will go in and win it. So yeah, him, David Peterson, 6.6K. Again, weather's good. I like him. Then the other two guys, Gavin Williams, you talked about him. Yeah, second start. No Salvi in the lineup. Andrew Martinez brought up, which is a good point. Good K prop there. 4.5. A lot of juice on the over too. Just a young, big arm. Looks to have some K upside. It is warm in KC, and KC's played like a hitter's park. Balls have flew there this year, but take upside at a low-owned guy below 6K. That's how I'd go. So yeah, Gavin Williams and Martin Perez. I'm with you. I prefer Gavin Williams, but Tigers a little below 4 team total. The Rangers a heavy favorite. Martin Perez does have a leash too. Not always you get a guy that will go 100 pitches if he's pitching well below 6K. And on this slate, I think you could do worse if you want to pay up for the Dodgers, get a different pitcher that way. But yeah, I rank him Gavin Williams. So many pitchers on this slate, Nate. Round it out for us. Your final thoughts on pitching and give your top. We'll go top 4 pitchers today.
Yeah, I'm going to go Showtime at the top, number 1. I just think he can post a score that's going to be hard to beat, especially if the Dodgers don't score 15 runs. I like him. Paul Blackburn, I actually found a team where you can play Dodgers bats, 5-man stack the Dodgers, and play both Blackburn and Ohtani, trying to make that work for my main team. I like that pairing. I love that pairing. So I'll go Blackburn number 2. I'll go – man, it's tough. It's tough. I think Taj Bradley has some upside, but I think I'll go Bryce Elder, number 3 against Minnesota. I think he has a ton of strikeout upside there. Good hitting weather in Atlanta, but again, they need to hit the ball to put it in play for it to matter. So I like Bryce Elder. And then my other cheap guy, I'm going to go David Peterson, but definitely monitor the weather there. I'm going to go David Peterson there at 66. So 2 cheap guys, two more expensive guys is what I'm going to give for the rankings.
I like it. I'm going to go Wu 1, Peterson 2, assuming weather's good, Ohtani 3, and then I'll go I mean, man, I look at Martin Perez and Gavin Williams the same. I'll say Gavin Williams because I think he has a little higher ceiling, but Martin Perez, I say, has the higher floor. So whatever you want there, I'll lean with Gavin Williams. That's pitcher on this 15 game slate. A lot of different ways to go. Again, monitor weather in New York. Other than that, though, weather should be good. If you want to spend up, you got options up top. If you want to spend all the way down, a lot of options down low. Fun slate, 15 games as you'd expect. Like yesterday, a lot of options yesterday at pitching. A lot of them did come through. I expect a good amount of them to come through here. But I think bats are going to win this slate, Nades. We'll go game by game, 15 games. Excited to see what you got for us because outside the Dodgers, it's pretty tough. First game of the night, San Diego Padres, Pittsburgh Pirates. This Reese Nur guy on the mound. I think it'll be more of a bullpen game for San Diego. Tell me if I'm wrong. And then for Pittsburgh, Rich Hill still getting it done in 2023. Yeah, the Padres are interesting, but like, are you going to play Tatis, Soto, Machado over Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts? Like, that's where the price at pretty much. So talk about these Padres. What are you doing with the Pirates?
Yeah, I think the Dodgers pivot is the Padres personally. I do think they are going to get ownership, but I mean, everyone outside of the Dodgers really isn't going to get any ownership. I mean, Cleveland is going to get ownership, which I hate. I'm not going to play Cleveland on a 15-game slate. They just don't hit bombs that you need. And especially, I mean, if you're playing someone outside of the Dodgers in this spot, you need someone that can match home run upside, right, with them being in Coors Field. I don't think Cleveland has that, but I do think the Padres can do that. This lineup has an expected ISO of 252 against lefties on the road this season, guaranteed ninth inning at-bats. We know what Rich Hill is. I mean, allows double-digit barrel rate, 10.8, right around 11%. Strikeout rate hovering right around 21% on the season. Expected ERA over 5. He has pitched a little over his head, I think. So, I mean, I do think these Padres come into here, into Pittsburgh. It's not the greatest hitter's park, but, I mean, you got Ha-Song Kim, Ha-Dong Kim, as we call him, 4,300 leading off, 241 expected ISO. This team just can hit bombs, low strikeout rate up and down the lineup. I mean, Xander's back in there. Gary Sanchez has smashed lefties on the season. Manny Machado has a little bit of BVP for the BVP guys out there against Rich Hill. So I do think 1 through 9, these guys are in play. But again, they are expensive. The bats that you want, right? Machado, Soto, Tatis, Bogarts. I mean, they're all over 5,400. So they are expensive, but it is the Dodgers pivot if you're looking to go somewhere. So I do like the Padres. And then the Pirates here get this bullpen game for the Padres. I don't really like targeting bullpen games in general, especially on a 15-game slate. So not a ton of interest in the Pirates overall. I mean, sure, if you don't want to play a guy that has double dong upside in Jack Sawinski at just 3,300 in the outfield, I wouldn't hate it. Or Josh Palacios, 2K bat and leadoff. I wouldn't hate that either. Pretty low strikeout rate overall. Some solid power out of him, but not a ton of interest in the Pirates side. Just those 2 bats I would look at just for some salary savings. But yeah, Padres, I definitely have a decent amount of interest in.
Yeah, I think I have a little more interest on the Pirates. Just I wouldn't 5-man stack as a secondary stack though, but like really outside of these Dodgers, there's not really too many good spots for bats, and a lot of these guys, top to bottom on this Pirates team, very cheap. If you do want to try and spend up at a pitcher, play multiple Dodgers, a cheap secondary stack, I think you can do worse. Padres bullpen, not very good. Pirates like a 4.4 team total. Yeah, Jack Sawinski, my favorite bat in that order too, in that 5-hole. But I think they're a little interesting as a filler secondary stack type or a one-off. As far as the Padres, someone in chat is talking about it. I'm curious to see if Title's the Stones, the fade Coors. Yeah, I don't. I wish I did. So the Padres, like, because if I do play the Padres, I want Tatis, want Machado, want Soto, all of that. So hard to click them over some of these Dodgers. So not as much Padres interest for me, but totally get it. And I think they are the pivot off of Coors. Keep it rolling, though. Again, we do appreciate it if you hit that like button for us. Let's try and get 150, like Mike Carr said. That would be an awesome number. Leave us very happy on this Tuesday. Cincinnati Reds, Baltimore Orioles, Andrew Abbott, Tyler Wells on the mound. About 80 degrees in Baltimore. Tyler Wells going to get some ownership. Any Reds leverage interest for you? Talk about these Orioles too. Decent total against Abbott.
Yeah, not a ton of interest in these Reds. It's just more Wells. I think other guys cheaper can match him. Again, salary is a talking point on this slate. Tyler Wells, 8,400. I mean, he still gets hit double-digit barrel rate, right around 12% barrel rate. So some of these Reds do have the power, guaranteed ninth inning at bats. Jonathan India is playing well, 4,800. But, man, I just wish some of these guys were cheaper. These Reds have been tearing the cover off the ball, so a lot of their prices have reflected that. So not a ton of interest. I mean, Spencer Steer maybe just hit a bomb, last night, the day before. I think you can play him, but, again, you're paying for it. I mean, my favorite might be Will Benson, just 2,500, has some home run upside, but not a ton of interest overall in the Reds. On the Orioles side, Abbott has been actually a pretty solid pitcher, so I don't have a ton of interest in Baltimore on a 15-game slate. But, again, offense is pretty weak. It wouldn't shock me. The Orioles are playing good baseball right now. Austin Hayes historically has smashed lefties. He's batting leadoff tonight, 3,500. I like him. Had a good game last night again. Jordan Westburg, still 2K at the shortstop position. Sure, you can obviously play him. You need salary. I'm seeing not a ton of ownership on him either because there's another cheap guy at shortstop in the Dodgers stack in Rojas. So a lot of people are going to play him. When you run the optimizer, Rojas gets slammed into every Dodgers lineup, every Dodgers 5-man just for his salary, right? His projection being in Coors Field, guaranteed ninth inning at bat. So Don't hate Jordan Westburg here as well. Aaron Hicks continues to crush the ball, 2,400 for him. So there is some – I like the Orioles as a mini stack here. Adley Rutschman continues to crush. Santander is on fire. So definitely Orioles. I think you can 5-man them because it won't be crazy for them to post a big number. Have stolen base upside as well. They're not afraid to run. So do like the Orioles. Red side, pretty much a pass for me.
Yeah, no, I think Orioles, they're going to be low owned. They good hitting weather in Camden, good offense. They can turn it over 1 through 9. You can play them. Abbott's been good in his short time in the MLB, but if he deals with adversity, I mean, it's bound to happen sometime. I think the Orioles, low ownership, expensive bats like Adley, who's going to be very low owned because everyone's going to play Will Smith at catcher, like you mentioned, shortstop. Many ways you can go at this team. Yeah, Orioles are interesting. I like them. I like that call from you. I prefer them over the Padres. Pittsburgh, a completely different game. You wouldn't 5-man stack. I don't love the 5-man stack as Pittsburgh. I like the 3-man secondary filling out with expensive stuff, whereas Orioles playing 5-man I think is definitely in play. So, yeah, I like that call, Nades. That was the second game of the slate. Still a bunch of games to go to, though. We'll keep it rolling. San Francisco Giants, Toronto Blue Jays. It's a bullpen game for the Giants. What it looks like this Ryan Walker guy will open. Then maybe Alex Wood. Who knows, though? Last time, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, it's supposed to be Sean Manaea as the potential long reliever. I don't even think he came in the game where he closed or something like that. So who knows what the Giants are going to do. It's going to be some sort of bullpen game, though. Kevin Gausman on the mound for the Blue Jays. No Giants for me against Gausman. I don't love picking on bullpen games. I prefer Baltimore over Toronto personally, so it's a fade. What do you got in this one?
Yeah, pretty much a fade. The only guy I will mention, Kevin Biggio, just because he's 2,600. He is dual position eligible, second base, which is a pretty weak position overall. Can play him in the outfield position as well. Expected ISO of 306 against righties. He's probably going to see a decent fare of right-handed pitching throughout the game. I haven't looked at the Giants bullpen to see, but pretty standard that bulk of the arms in the bullpen are righties. So wouldn't hate that, but yeah, not stacking either side of this game on a 15-game slate. So we can keep moving.
Yeah, Ballsboro Giants troll after the opener. Do they ever? Do they ever indeed? We'll keep it rolling. Next game on the slate, Milwaukee Brewers, New York Mets, Julio Teheran, David Peterson on the mound. Again, the one weather concern game. Monitor that. I like the Mets. Outside of the Dodgers, they're my favorite stack, and it's mainly Julio Teheran. When he came back, when I saw that name back in the MLB, I'm like, we're picking on this guy. Did prior. He had some years in Atlanta, threw gas. He definitely had some of his upside, but, man, he struggled with the long ball. He's only gotten older. I thought he's been good so far since he's been back to the Brewers, but I'm going to keep stacking against the Mets. He'll get some ownership, but I like this line of 1 through 9, can roll it over. Picking on these Brew Crew, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, the dude, Julio Teheran just continued. I don't know what's happening in Milwaukee, right? You got freaking Cy Ray out there. You got Teheran coming back, posting a .88 whip. Like, the dude is just crushing out here. But, I mean, just a 7.5% swinging strike rate overall. The Mets were very hurtful last night, but I think we can go back to them. As crazy as that does sound, Brandon Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Pete Alonso, love all three, or all four of those guys. Daniel Vogelbach, if you want a cheaper first baseman down there. Brett Beatty, 2,900 third base. So I think you can play these guys. I don't have a ton of interest in them overall because Tehran has actually been pretty good, but the underlying metrics are not good for him. So I do think regression is coming. Would be a perfect slap nades in the face spot here after I five-man the Mets on my main team last night. They come out here and blow up Tehran. So I do have some interest because, again, outside the Dodgers, offense is pretty weak. So Mets definitely crack my top 5 in terms of five-man stacks. It's just a bet on Tehran returning to earth, bad Brewers bullpen behind him. It's definitely not the Brewers bullpen of the past, which was definitely scared to go. If the starter made it past 6 innings, you were pretty much toast because you had the 1-2-3 punch coming in. That's not the same, and it's pretty hurtful as a Brewers fan here, but yeah, Matt's definitely a lot of interest. On the Brewers side, the only guy I would look at is William Contreras. Does hit lefties pretty well. Will be super low owned. Peterson's going to get 25% ownership if the game does play. But other than that, not a ton of interest. I mean, Joey Wiemer, I guess, hit a bomb last night, 2,600. Had pretty good numbers against lefties too. If you want a cheap guy, low owned, you could go to that. But outside of that, not going to the Brewers.
Yeah, Gator Nation brought up Joey Wiemer, and a couple innings before his dawn, I think it was the previous at bat, maybe it was 2 before, the Mets radio was chirping saying about his too much movement in the bat and how didn't someone correct that all the way up on his way up, and sure enough, next at bat, maybe it was too late, or he donged right in their face. Maybe today he gets it done. No Brewers for me. As far as the Mets though, yeah, like Richie Smalls said, I'm a Mets fan. They blow nuts right now. Well, just like Shannon said, and you said at the end, he had 4 walks last game. Old Julio coming back for sure. It's a bet against Julio. It's not as much a bet on the Mets. But, man, like looking at the talent they have, you got to think this Mets lineup comes together at some point. Burned everyone yesterday, 15-game slate, some weather concerns to monitor. I think they're going to be very low-owned. You got cheap bats in there. You got some expensive bats, Lindor, Alonso. A lot of ways you can go with that stack. So, I'll just keep betting against Julio. Maybe he keeps shoving it to me, but a low on Mets shot on this late. They will crack my top 3 when we go through it later. So give me some Mets, no Brew Crew. We'll keep it rolling. No, again, we do appreciate that like button. If you're not a member at SHIPIT Nation, you don't get Nate's cores, Hamwich's cores, G. Risen's cores on FanDuel. Hoop was absolutely been on fire. Talks about his favorite pitchers, his favorite stacks, low-owned stacks in a slate plan. Cash games, I give you core plays on both sides. So, of course, you need projections. We got them. We got sack rankings, hitter rankings, pitcher rankings as well for one cheap price, $59 a month, $599 a year. All of that, no better deal. Get in the Discord as well. We'd love to have you. We'll keep it rolling, Nades. A lot of games going on. Miami Marlins, Boston Red Sox, Sandy Alcantara, Garrett Whitlock on the mound. It's a 9.5 total in Fenway. Decent hitting weather, 75 degrees, wind blowing out a bit. Sandy definitely has not been the same Sandy as of last year. Any Red Sox interest for you or the Marlins?
Yeah, I mean, pretty solid weather here, and typically I do like Fenway a little bit. I mean, 12 to 15 mile an hour winds blowing out. Not the warmest, but I mean, still 70 degrees, so that's warm enough. Sandy hasn't been the greatest. I mean, it's under a 20% K rate. Doesn't get hit super hard. Whitlock does. I do have some interest in Whitlock at his price tag. Just picking on these Marlins, 24% strikeout rate for this Marlins team. Whitlock right around 22% K rate on the year. 7,100, I think he makes some sense. But the Red Sox bats, I do prefer to play when they're in Fenway. I mean, Rafael Devers, Adam Duvall would be my focal points. Jarren Duran leading off 3,300, I think makes some sense. Verdugo. I don't mind Verdugo. Connor Wong actually has really good numbers, 2,700 in the 9-hole. Pretty healthy projection actually overall. And I mean, people are going to play Will Smith at the top at the catcher position. And I like spending down for home run upside. Good hitting weather overall in Fenway, 2,700. Connor Wong, 256 expected ISO on the year against righties. And hey, Sandy starts falling behind a little bit, not missing as many bats overall. So, don't hate these Red Sox personally, right around a 5 implied run total too against Sandy, which is not something we're used to seeing, right? With Sandy on the mound, teams approaching a 5 run total in Vegas. So definitely like the Red Sox. No interest in the Marlins. I'm not playing the Marlins, a base hit team on a 15-game slate. I mean, Soler is back in the lineup in the 2-hole. I mean, sure, if you want to. He's got the most power on the team. Actually has really good numbers against righties on the road. Solid weather, but not a ton of interest.
Yeah, I like the Red Sox. Sandy definitely not missing as many bats. I think a lot of balls will be in play. 5 lefties the Red Sox got in their order. Some cheap bats, a lot of cheap bats. Devers right there if you want to spend up, but plenty of cheap bats, different ways to go with the stack. Balls will be in play. I like Fenway, wind blowing out a little bit. Yeah, there's only so many. A lot of these games we're going to get to. I don't have too much interest. I don't love the Marlins side as much against Whitlock. Definitely prefer Boston, but another team that'll be pretty low owned, and I would not be surprised if they were on the winner. Keeping it rolling, Minnesota Twins, Atlanta Braves, Joe Ryan, Bryce Elder on the mound. It is about 90 degrees, just like yesterday in Atlanta. Sonny Gray hurtful yesterday, shutting down these Braves. Now they get Joe Ryan. I look at Joe Ryan better than Sonny Gray. I'm not going to go back to these Braves today, but hey, that's the time. You should probably jump on. Going to be low owned again. They are expensive, but they're the pivot, just like the Padres. Pivot off of these Dodgers, expensive. Still pretty good total. It's warm, hitting weather. What are you doing, Nades? Any interest on either side?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a little bit more interest in the Braves. I don't think they're in my top 5 overall, but I mean, if you're looking for pivots of the Dodgers, right, with teams that can hit home runs, 90 degrees, wind blowing out in Truist Park, Joe Ryan, hey, maybe he just doesn't have his stuff tonight in Truist, right? 1 through 9, I think you can play them. I definitely prefer Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, Ozuna, Acuna. Ozuna's just on the tear right now. Hit another bomb last night. Rosario there, Hoops boy, Michael Harris continues to play well in the 9-hole. But yeah, not a ton of interest, but they do still have a 5 implied run total against Mr. Joe Ryan at home, partly due to the weather, right, and just the overall talent of this roster. And anytime you can get the Braves low owned, it's definitely it'd be a disgrace if I didn't bring them up when they're low owned with that talented roster. Twins, I'm out on the Twins. I do like Bryce Elder quite a bit here, so not going to play any Twins.
Yeah, Jake's on the Twins or on the Braves too. He said, love getting the Braves at low ownership. Never will say no to that. Braves at low ownership, something you can always do. I just like other spots on the slate a little more, so don't have as much interest in that one. Get to the next one, another good hitting weather spot, about 90, 85 degrees in St. Louis. Framber Valdez and the Astros take on Jordan Montgomery and the Cardinals. I don't know. I definitely don't love picking on Framber, so not interested in the Cardinals. As far as the Astros, still no Yordong in this lineup. I don't know, man. Unless you talk me into some in this game, nothing's really jumping out the page. What you got?
Yeah, I'm not going to play these Cardinals against Framber and his ground balls. Not going to do that. But one guy on the Astros that I do like quite a bit, dude's on an absolute heater right now, 3,300 at the catcher position. Yainer Diaz, I do think, takes Jordan Montgomery deep here tonight. So I like that. A little one-off action there. Should be hitting right in the 5-hole, somewhere in the middle of that order. 375 expected ISO on the year against lefties on the road. Good hitting weather, guaranteed 9th inning at bat. I think he makes a lot of sense. Outside of that, not going to anyone in this game.
Love it. We'll keep it rolling. Next game on the slate. How many games we got left? 8 games still left, so we'll keep it rolling. We do appreciate that like button. That subscribe button helps us out a ton. Detroit Tigers, Texas Rangers, Matt Manning, Martin Perez on the mound. Rangers, they're going to get – they're not going to be low owned, get a little ownership, but relative speaking, outside of the Dodgers, if you like any team on this slate, I say you just play them. If you like the Dodgers, you have to play them, but obviously think about how you finish the rest of your roster. Outside of them, though, Rangers, one of the highest totals on the slate. Matt Manning, I don't think he's very good. What are your thoughts on him? And then talk about these Tigers. You liked him yesterday. Martin Perez will get a little ownership maybe, but what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's the covetous spot here. Texas at home against a righty, and a righty that strikes out under 15% of the bats. Barrel gets barreled at a 16% clip. Sign me up for some of these Rangers. I think the Rangers are my second favorite stack on this slate behind the Dodgers. Typically not a huge Padres guys. Padres would probably fall in 3 or 4 tonight. But yeah, these Rangers, I mean, 5.6 implied run total. I bring it up every time. They smash right-handed pitching at home. 1 through 9, you can play these guys. Corey Seager absolutely smashes the ball. and will be unique because a lot of people are paying down at the shortstop position. You talk about the 2K guy from Baltimore. You talk about Miguel Rojas, 2,900. I think he is for the Dodgers. Probably hitting 8 or 9 for the Dodgers on the chalkiest team. Jonah Heim, Zeke, my boy, Zeke Duran, 2,900. Absolutely love him. Leody Tavares. So, I mean, 1 through 9, you can play these guys. 18% strikeout rate on the year against righties. So they don't strike out. They have an expected ISO over 200. And you got a dude that's striking out under 15% of the batters he faces and getting barreled at a 16% clip. Not too often do you see a barrel rate higher than their strikeout rate. So sign me up for these Rangers. On the Tigers side, I actually do have some interest in these Tigers. I mean, Andy Ibanez continues to just crush the ball. He's 2,200. Should be batting in the 3-hole. We'll have a little bit of ownership, but, man, it's hard to ignore that. Spencer Torkelson, G. Risen's freaking boy, was very hurtful last night on his 4 points on my 5-man Detroit stack that was making a run. Torkelson came up in 2 big spots and dusted both of them. So that was very hurtful. Matt Vierling, right there, batting leadoff, 2,500. These guys have cheap pieces up and down this lineup. I mean, Zach Short, 2,400 at the second base. Eric Haas. I think you can play these Tigers again here. Definitely not as great in numbers overall as the Rangers, but they're cheap, and that's you need salary. So nice little secondary stack with these Tigers. I prefer Ibanez, Matt Vierling, Torkelson at the top, but Zach Short down there in the 8 or the 9 hole definitely has some good numbers in his limited sample against lefties. So don't hate that. But yeah, Rangers, my second favorite stack of the night.
Love it. Great breakdown. Warren Tyler giving a little Heim birthday narrative for the people too. So Jonah Heim goes deep. Thank Warren Tyler in chat tomorrow for that info. Razzle likes the Tiger bats. It sounds like, yeah, Tigers will definitely be very low owned. If you like the Rangers, play the Rangers. Like I said, anyone but the Dodgers, ownership will be pretty low, spread out, where I wouldn't really worry about it. We'll keep it rolling, though. A bunch of games on this slate. Keep absolutely crushing for the people, Nays. A lot of good comments in chat, calling you the baseball king. Keep giving the people some winners. Philadelphia Phillies, Chicago Cubs, Ranger Suarez, Jameson Taillon on the mound. Talked about it a little bit when we were talking about Ranger Suarez. Wind blowing in a little bit, only 70 degrees in Wrigley. Not the best hitting weather, but still 8.5 total. Are you going to pick on Ranger Suarez, or are you going to pick on Jameson Taillon?
If I'm going to pick on anyone in this game, it's going to be Taillon with these Phillies. They just have some power in this lineup. Taillon, 18% strikeout rate on the season, 18.8. Barrel rate, almost 12%. Expected ERA approaching 6. So I do think some of these Phillies can definitely get to him. Trey Turner has been hitting the ball well. Castellanos has been hitting the ball well. Schwarber and Harper can hit it out of a freaking tornado. Doesn't matter where they're hitting. So you can definitely play those guys. Alec Boehm. Brandon Marsh has actually been pretty solid, 3,100. So I do think these Phillies definitely not trying to 5-man sack a team in a Wrigley win game, especially when it's double-digit wins blowing in. Just not something I do, especially on a 15-game slate. But I wouldn't hate some of these Phillies as a one-off or a 2-man mini stack, something like that. But yeah, Cubs bats. I mean, the only guy I would look at, Yan Gomes, historically lefty masher. 3,600 at the catcher position. I think you can play him, but I do like Yainer Diaz for $300 cheaper. Much better environment there than a win game. So don't love Yan Gomes a ton. And then Christopher Morel, the dude is expensive, but man, he can just hit bombs. Doesn't matter if the wind's blowing in. Outside of that, not a ton of interest because I do think Ranger Suarez is definitely in play.
And I did mention the one weather concern was the Mets game, but I guess there's like air quality concerns in Chicago too. Probably should play. It's not rain or any of that, which is why I didn't bring it up. But I guess air quality. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will comment on that because, man, you walk outside and it looks like someone's freaking burning leaves in the fall out here. It's hazy as can be. I walked out of the office today. Went into the office, walked out, and it looked like it was foggy. Title, you remember the old fog days, and that's what it looks like right now. I couldn't even see Lambeau Field from the parking lot, and I'm less than I'm like 2 blocks away from Lambeau Field, and I couldn't even see it when I walked out of the office. So not the greatest weather here. I am inside. I haven't been on the golf course. It's pretty we can thank Tambo and the Canadians for giving us the smog here in Wisconsin. We're not used to it, but yeah, I mean, it has been pretty bad. So I would definitely look at that, and they have done it in the past, right, in New York on the East Coast with the same kind of thing. So definitely keep an eye on that.
Yeah, underdog notifications on Twitter, underdog MLB. If a game gets postponed or delayed or anything, you'll hear about it. Again, air quality. I mean, Al's talking about it in Detroit. Smells like plastic and firewood. Mike Carr talking about the Canadians. So yeah, no rain there. Just if they postpone the game because air quality or something, be on the lookout for that 8:05 Eastern. That is, you should get the news before lock, I'd imagine, if that's the case. But assume the game plays is how we're talking through it. Still got 6 games left on the slate. Goal is 150 likes. We do appreciate if you get it done. And again, if you're not a member at SHIPITNation.com, head over, check out Nate's core plays, check out who hoops on today, projections, hitter rankings, stack rankings as well. $59 a month. We'd love to have you in the Discord, or make sure you do get in the Discord if you do join. Next game on the slate, Nate's another good hitting weather, 90 degrees in Kansas City. Guardians, Royals, Gavin Williams, Brady Singer on the mound. You're talking a little bit about the Guardians pre-show. They're going to get some ownership. I think they're probably the second highest owned team on the slate, maybe, because of their price tag. Guaranteed ninth inning at bat, good hitting weather. Singer hasn't been good, cheap price tags, all of that together. They make it fit with the Dodgers and something like that. So I don't know if you're saying chalk Guardians, or at least kind of chalky Guardians. It's no thank you on a 15-game slate for me. Talk about some of those bats. So any interest on the other side?
Yeah, I'm easy cross off on the Guardians. I mean, team expected ISO of 114. I think that's worse than the Brewers. That's worse than a lot of teams on this slate. And I'm seeing them about double the ownership of the third highest owned stack in total ownership. Obviously, Dodgers clear-cut number one, right around 20%. But I'm seeing the Guardians approaching 12 to 14% total stack ownership. And the next team sitting right around 7. So I'm not going to do that. It's hard for me to fade the Dodgers here. I'm typically not a chalk guy. Everyone knows that in baseball. I mean, the Hall of Fame guys fail 7 out of 10 times. So that's kind of the reasoning that I look at, right, when I'm fading chalk. But, man, it's hard to ignore the Dodgers. I'm not going to play the Guardians with the Dodgers. I'll tell you that right now. So Guardians, pretty easy cross-off spot. The only guy I will look at is Jose Ramirez, because I do think his ownership stays in check because he is expensive at the third base spot. People want to play Max Muncy there, who should be back tonight for the Dodgers. So $5,600, $400 more than Max Muncy there. Yeah, I mean, he always has. I mean, the dude had a triple dong a couple weeks ago. He always has the upside to absolutely smash a slate at the third base. But all these cheap Guardians, yeah, no thanks for me. I'm out on those guys. On the Royals side, I typically like playing these Royals at home. Drew Waters has really good numbers in his sample size against righties. Gavin Williams, yeah, he has incredible K rate coming up in the minors, like 34%, somewhere in there, if I recall right. But his last start, he did have some control issues. And these Royals have actually been playing pretty good baseball overall. I mean, Melendez, 2,900 in the 3-hole with some power. I don't hate that. He's a good value guy. Nick Pratto leading off there, 3,200. They have some cheap bats, so I wouldn't sleep on these Royals. I definitely prefer the Royals a lot more in this game than the Guardians, because I will be fading the Guardians tonight.
Yeah, no, we're lockstep there. Guardians, I think, will be over-owned. They're on the winner, kind of chalky on this slate, so be it. But the Royals definitely prefer that side. I mentioned Gavin Williams, how I had some interest, but 5.9K. A lot of these guys, when you go down to the lower range, only is third start. It's going to be second start, third start. There's a lot of unknowns. I mean, he can blow up. He can get you 18 at 5.9K, and you'd absolutely love it. He can have control issues, get hit around. These Royals, very cheap, almost top to bottom. Great hitting weather. Yeah, these Royals, kind of like the Pirates I talked about earlier. I probably wouldn't 5-man them. I don't think it's the craziest thing, but a 3-man, just like the Pirates, that are cheap, that go with the Dodgers, that are low-owned, that go with chalkier pitching options, something like that. Definitely would keep these Royals in the pool. Again, love the hitting weather. And who knows about Gavin Williams? Could be good, could be very bad. Let's keep it rolling. Los Angeles Dodgers, Colorado Rockies, Clayton Kershaw, Connor Seabold. Dodgers, it's the story of the slate. Mega chalk. I mean, it's baseball. Anything can absolutely happen. I don't love playing the chalk in baseball. It's tough to get away today, though. Head and shoulders above every single place or team on this slate. Seabold, if it was in Seattle, you said you'd play him. If it was in the Dodgers, you'd be playing them. How do you play them if you are playing them? 5-man, 3-man, would you one-off? Talk a little game theory like that. Are you picking on Clayton Kershaw?
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers, man, it's a struggle. I don't know what sport we're playing here, but you don't see 7.5 run implied run totals too often in baseball. But, I mean, Seabold, 16% strikeout rate on the year, barrel rate right around 9%, and a bad bullpen behind him as well. And the Dodgers, one of the best hitting teams, most patient teams in the league as well. Strikeout rate right around 21%. Expected ISO over 200 with this projected lineup. I think I'm going to start my teams with Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, JD Martinez. I love those three bats a ton. Very good numbers. Like I said, Muncy should be back here tonight. Will Smith and Mookie, I'm down a little bit on. I do think both of those guys get a lot of ownership. Obviously, people are going to look at the Dodgers, and it's going to be hard to leave Mookie Betts, especially with his shortstop eligibility. When you look at shortstop, it's pretty much a weak position overall. So, like, don't love those guys. I would kind of grab Freddie Freeman, Martinez, and Muncy, and then grab some of these cheaper guys, right? Like Jason Hayward. Miguel Vargas has been pretty solid this year. James Outman, if he's in the lineup, I think is a good play as well. So that's kind of how I'm looking at the Dodgers. But, yeah, I mean, 1 through 9, I don't care who's in there. It's just a bad on Seabold is not good. Bad bullpen behind him. And, yeah, can't go wrong, hopefully, tonight with these Dodgers. But you're not going to be alone playing these guys. On the Rockies side, I didn't have a ton of interest in Kershaw. It's just more his salary, right, and the matchup, the weather in Coors Field. Doesn't mean I'm going to load the boat on these Rockies. I never play the Rockies typically, even with them being home in Coors Field. If I had any bats, I mean, Tovar or McMahon there in the 2-3 hole. But outside of that, I mean, I'm not going to any of these Rockies. Picking against Kershaw.
Yeah, I'd rather play Kershaw than I would play the Rockies. Shannon mentioned it earlier. Thoughts on Kershaw? We didn't mention him because of the price and who he was around, but yeah, I don't think Kershaw is a bad play by any means. Like, if you play these Dodgers, just your secondary stack. If you 5-man the Dodgers, I don't think it's crazy. Gator Nation said 30 teams playing, easy fade. Totally get that standpoint, how to look at it like that. 29 other teams. Of course, when you go through some of them, like, are you going to play Washington? Like, easy cross-off. Some of these teams feel like easier cross-off, but still, 15 teams in okay spots. Why play the chalkiest of all the chalk? Totally get that aspect. However, you can play the Dodgers and then play 3-man Pirates or play a Clayton Kershaw or something like that. Like, just get different at pitcher. Get different with your secondary stacks. Try and get different in your Dodger stack. Leave off a Mookie is going to be very chalky, something like that. If you play the Dodgers, which I think you definitely can, I like them. Just know how you play them. Take a little extra second. Look at your roster. Try and get some low-owned pieces around them. Let's keep it moving, though. 4 games left on this slate. Chicago White Sox, Los Angeles Angels, Michael Kopech, Shohei Ohtani. I think the Angels are interesting. Kopech can be boomer bust. Angels, though, at the bottom of the order, I don't know. They're cheap, but I don't love getting to it. And you can't play Ohtani today because he is a pitcher, which always hurts when I want to stack the Angels or like them a little more. No Ohtani being able to play him does hurt because he always homers when he's a pitcher, and then you don't get the points for it. But I don't know. Angels fall down the list, I guess, a little bit for me. Definitely no White Sox. What are you doing?
Yeah, real quick, want to hit on our guy Scary Creations in the chat. We appreciate you giving comments like this. But the reason the Rangers are projecting right around 4% total stack ownership, look at their price tags compared to Cleveland. That's the reason. And Cleveland in a good hitting park, Kauffman Stadium, good weather, and cheap guys. I mean, you got 2,600, 2,500, 2,700, 2,800. It's the price points. That's why Cleveland's the second highest owned team on the slate. Everyone already wants to play the Dodgers. They want to play those cheap pitchers, and they still need some salary. So that's why Cleveland's getting the ownership there. Nobody's going to play Texas because the bats you want to play for Texas are expensive. So that's when I'm looking for a Dodgers pivot. I do like Texas. Again, I gave all the reasonings, but that's I did want to bring that up because that's the reason. I'm seeing about 8 other teams projected higher owned than Texas overall. White Sox, Angels, no interest.
No Trout. Yeah, no Trout in the lineup too. It came out like 10 minutes ago. Yeah, no interest probably for me with the Angels now, but they are cheaper. So I guess if you play the Dodgers, you can look at it that way too. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, Nades.
No, you're good. I think the Angels are in the mini stack category here. Kopech does get barreled right around a 15% clip. He has some strikeout upside overall. It definitely hurts not being able to play Ohtani or now no Trout in the lineup, but Mickey Moniak has some pretty good numbers. Brandon Drury, Hunter Renfroe. But, yeah, not a ton of interest. More mini stack now for the Angels for me. And, yeah, DraftKings, come on. Figure it out. Make two pitchers. Make two players. There's multiple players in the league now that have the same name, and you can figure out a way to have two different batters to play and change their names. I mean, make freaking Ohtani hitter, make Ohtani pitcher, something like that, and give us the ability to play them both. But, yeah, very frustrating there. Angels, more of a mini stack for me. White Sox, easy cross off against Ohtani.
Yeah, I gave up even trying to get DraftKings to do that. I just somehow they definitely could. It'd be very easy for them. They don't want to change their ways. So be it. We play the game they put out. San Marcos, you are good. I saw that as well, though. 3 games left on the slate. Again, let's try and get 150 likes. Would be awesome. We appreciate it a ton. We appreciate all of you guys hanging out with us. Tampa Bay Rays, Arizona Diamondbacks, Taj Bradley, Zach Gallen, 2 of the better pitchers on the slate. No thank you for me. If bats beat me, they beat me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, you can always pick off some home run hunting with the Rays, Jose Siri, Josh Lowe, Luke Raley. But, yeah, not a ton of interest in picking out a guy like Zach Gallen on the slate. And Taj Bradley has the highest K upside or highest the K rate on the slate. Not going to play these D-backs, and their expected ISO of 130 on a 15-game slate. So it's a speed-up game here.
2 games left. New York Yankees, Oakland Athletics, Johnny Brito, Paul Blackburn on the mound. 60 degrees in Oakland. We like Paul Blackburn a little bit. Johnny Brito, we didn't touch on him really too much. I don't think he'd be the craziest play either. Kind of in that Gavin Williams, Martin Perez range. So many teams on this slate. We couldn't talk about everyone, but Pitchers Park in Oakland, not good hitting weather. I like the pitchers more than I do the bats. No, thank you. For me, what about you?
Yeah, no Yankees for me. Blackburn, all things considered, is one of my top 2 pitchers on the slate. I love him. Kind of flag planning there. I think Brito sucks personally as a pitcher. So if you wanted to play some of these Athletics, I mean, really hitting really isn't crazy on the slate outside of the Dodgers, like we say constantly. And all of these Oakland guys, yeah, it's not the greatest hitters park, but all of them are cheap. Nobody's going to play them. And Brito, I mean, gets barreled at a 12% clip, strikeout rate under 17%. So I don't think it's the craziest thing. But, yeah, not a ton of interest overall. It's just a bad game environment for batters on a 15-game slate. I'm like you, Title. I like targeting warm weather games, better hitting parks. So pretty easy stay away. But Athletics would definitely be my preference.
Last game on the slate, it doesn't really fit that category, talking parks, talking weather, but Washington Nationals, Seattle Mariners, Jake Irvin, Brian Wu on the mound. Wu will be probably the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Nats offered the game theory, the leverage play. No thank you to me on this 10-game slate, though, or 15-game slate. And probably wouldn't even be for me on a 10-game slate. Definitely not on a 15. As far as the Mariners, got the job done yesterday. Definitely a pop in this lineup. 5 total. I think they're pretty low owned too. Don't think it's the craziest thing. I like some other spots more. Won't crack my top 3, but I don't hate the Mariners. What are your thoughts? Mariners, Nats.
Yeah, so the bullpen's mostly right-handed here too. So I do think after Jake Irwin gets hit around a little bit, a lot of these lefties become more in play too. Obviously, you see a lot of the lefties down at the bottom. Seattle's kind of looking at that too. That's why Kelenic, Ford, and Colton Wong are still in the lineup batting 7, 8, and 9. Because I think J.P. Crawford has been absolutely locked in. Hit a bomb last night. I know that. He's 3,100 batting leadoff there. Again, we'll probably see at least 2 at-bats from righties out of that pen. Righties. I mean, pretty much the entire game because, like I said, yeah, they do have 4 lefties. Cal Raleigh obviously will likely hit from the left side as well. They're going to see primarily right-handed pitching, so it shouldn't be too much pinch hit concern there. Mariners have a pretty healthy implied run total. I do think they're probably my 4th or 5th favorite stack on this slate, and because they can just hit bombs. But again, it's not the greatest park. It is Jake Irwin. It's more a bet on Irwin not being great. Pretty much average bullpen behind Irwin, I think, too, for Washington. I haven't looked recently as of late, but yeah, Mariners definitely have some home run upside. But man, overall title, it's pretty ugly outside of the Dodgers. That's why you're seeing the Dodgers ownership being where it's at. Got some cheap pitchers to play, so that's why the ownership even goes higher on these Dodgers. But I don't know. I think we did a good enough job breaking it down. But overall, yeah, last game, no Nationals for me against Brian Wu and Mariners. I do think you can 5-man stack them with their home run upside.
Yeah, great breakdown. Awesome stuff, Boss Bro. Nats have one lefty in the pen. A lot of you guys out there always dropping awesome tidbits in chat. Nates and I don't know everything. There's always stuff that we don't know that we can learn. Little tidbits like that in chat help us out a ton. So appreciate that, Boss Bro. That was all 15 games. What a crazy slate it is. Gator Nation's talking. Just playing the course. 15-game slates are rough. It's definitely tough. You got to go through. You got to cross off a lot of teams, cross off games, make fades that you aren't comfortable with. So it's a different beast out there. Very, very big scores I'm expecting tonight. And it's interesting. Pretty much when you log on to the slate today, if you're playing one team or whatever it may be, the Dodgers are the question. You go sit down. Am I eating the chalk? Am I not? Am I matching the field? If I'm playing it, how am I playing it? The Dodgers, definitely the talking point on the slate. Appreciate all you guys. 150 likes. We didn't quite get there. We'll still give you, though, the lower own picture of the slate, the dong of the day. Do appreciate it if you hit it, though. And again, if you're not a member at SHIPITNation.com, head over, check it out. You will not regret it. Boomer's done an awesome job with projections, which you need to play DFS, stack rankings, pitcher rankings, hitter rankings, and then Hoop, Bet on Fire. Nade's got his core up as well. Hamwich, G-Rise, and you play cash games. We got you covered as well. Didn't even mention MMA, golf also included as well. NFL, NBA will be here before we know it. Enough of that, though, Nade's low own pitcher on the slate. I think I know where you're going, but talk to the people.
Yeah, talked about this guy enough, stroked him enough. Hopefully he doesn't let me down. I'm going 7,700 Oakland, Mr. Paul Blackburn, to post a nice big number on these Yankees, and hopefully I can get my friend back and rub it in her face a little bit out there in New York. So I'm going right back to the well. Paul Blackburn going to post 25 DraftKings points tonight.
I will go Ranger Suarez at 7K. Wind blowing in, good pitching weather in Chicago, only 70 degrees. Not scared about this not scared about this Cubs lineup. Suarez pitching, if you give me 15 today, 15, 16 at 7K, I live, my bats will hopefully win the slate. I think some stack wins the slate more than pitching wins the slate today. So Ranger Suarez, my pitcher, low own pitcher. Nade's dong of the day time. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm not going to the Dodgers. I'm not going to pull a cop out here. I'm going to go to my second favorite stack of the night here. I'm going to go to the 8-hole hitter. I'm going to my boy, Zeke Duran, 2,900 in the 8-hole. I think he takes Matt Manning deep tonight in Texas Stadium here.
Well, I will say, we'll give it to the people, too. Our stacks, not Dodgers, top 3 stacks, too. Then we got pitcher, dong of the day, and stacks. The top 3 Dodgers you cannot say.
Yeah, so I'll go Rangers number 1 then, without the Dodgers being in there. I'll go Padres number 2, and then I will go Seattle, I think, number 3, without the Dodgers being in there.
I like it. I'm going to go Red Sox 1, I'm going to go Mets 2, I'm going to go Royals 3 for very cheap, more of a mini stack there. My dong of the day. Did you give your dong of the day? If you did, give it again because I missed it.
Zeke Duran down there in the 8-hole for Texas. I think he takes Matt Manning deep tonight for sure.
I bet. That caught me not listening there. I was trying to get the stacks too. Forgot that I didn't mention that. Talking for me, my dong of the day. Going to spend up a little bit. My number 1 stack, though. Boston Red Sox, right in the heart of the order. Rafi Devers. People are going to go Max Muncy at third. People go Jose Ramirez more at third base. I think Raf Devers goes deep, and I think he comes in 5%, 6%, something like that, single digits. Rafael Devers, I like these Boston Red Sox. Awesome stuff, Nate. 15 games. That's a lot, man. Pitching, hitting, all the work you put in before the show as well, the work you put in Discord. We appreciate over here at Chip and Nation. We'd love to see people in the Discord sign up. $59 a month, $599 a year. I think you love it, but if you're not a member and you're just in here every day hitting that like button, supporting us, we appreciate you guys doing that as well. Awesome stuff. Looking to see some Ship It logo nations up top. Nade's awesome stuff. Everybody out there, hope you guys and girls have a great night. For Nadesify, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.